you know what? This MrBeast burger, that's the summary. That's the takeaway from this. McDonald's, why is it a $300 million company? Now we know. There you go. That's why it's a $300 million company. It does need to slap.
That's the way it comes back to that lesson we shared maybe a month ago by now, but it just has to, the product obviously matters, you know, and I think for too long, we're starting to get used to I haven't even tried Prime, and I'm sure it's not the worst, but I'm sure it's not the best either, but it's kind of sugary water with caffeine probably, right? So it doesn't need to be that good, but I think that sort of branding first business can work. But when it's actually a burger, there's other options. You can go to McDonald's, you can go to Burger King, you can go to Wendy's.
Sell software, dude. Sell a software as a service app.
Exactly.
A AI-powered research app, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you should be doing, Mr. Beast.
There we go. Barely.ai/NIA.
You can have it. It's yours, man.
Beastly.ai, yeah.
Beastly.ai.
Welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. We've got the NIA gang back together. Jack Butcher, Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. Trung Phan, you went advisor today. What's going on here, mate? We got to start ripping you. Let's get back to basics here. That's a dad hat if I ever saw one.
Well, I did some numbers, some unofficial analysis that when I don't wear headwear, I look like 100 times older. So I'm getting
there too.
I don't gel there, man. I don't gel. Well, but gel my hair, I'm looking fresh, but I don't gel. I just actually went for a run. So if we had our VR helmets on, with the smell portion, it would be musky in here.
Here we go. All right. Quick question. Did you ever wear the visor upside down to the side in the 2000s?
Yeah, dude. With the double polo.
Oh boy, polo action.
Jack was definitely a double polo guy. Come on, dude.
I've done double polo, yeah.
Oh my God, 100%. Of course you did, man. 100%.
Wait, double polo. Wait, what were the brands though? Was it like a
Abercrombie and Fitch, man?
Oh, Ralph.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you were flexing, it was a double Lacoste. Actually, Rafa.
Yeah.
Rafa, our producer, our legendary producer. If you can find the photo of Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, double polo.
Yeah.
Is that on Swagged Out Tech Bros Twitter?
Yeah, bro. You know that? The Jeff Bezos, how it's going, like him and this little nerd that him super jacked. It's like that's the version for Sam Altman, him with the double polo, and then now him like shaking hands with Macron.
But there's been a lot of transformations. I have to say, Zuck becoming this absolute machine is one I didn't see. Killing it with the jiu-jitsu.
Great point, actually. Let me knob one more thing in here. Is somebody put a good Rafa? I mean, Rafa is unstoppable. He's like a walking archive. There's a tweet where it was about what tech CEOs look like portrayed by Hollywood in the early 2010s, and it was Jesse Eisenberg as Zuckerberg, like this little dork, and like the guy from Silicon Valley, the Richard, super dorky. And then the last two most prominent ones was Ed Norton in the Netflix film, like jacked rich, and then the guy from Succession, Luke Madsen, good-looking Norwegian dude, like 6'5". I'm like, damn, they're like, Hollywood's coming around to it.
By the way, did all three of us watch the end of Succession yet?
Yeah.
Jack, did you watch it? All right, because we didn't. We probably won't get to it today, but oh my God, I finally watched it. I was like 3 weeks delayed. But all right, anyway, should we get straight to the AMA today, boys? We got lots to cover. So let's just start it off with a few topical questions. We're not going to do a full episode on topical stuff, but we're going to start off with a few of these. What do you guys think of MrBeast Burger shutting down? We've talked about the MrBeastification. Trung, you mentioned that I think last week in reference to Lionel Messi, and I was waiting for the comments, but
are we like NIA? Let's walk through the history of NIA. We started because of NFTs, and like we just ride each rave, create a rave, and like there's just no foundation here. We have no conviction about it.
So you're giving it away.
I would actually love Jack's opinion on this because I'm not trying to say like Jack's the one that's pumping this, but Jack, this is one of the attention in commerce. What do you think about MrBeast Burger shutting down? Let me add the one note that I did see was he's shutting down because he couldn't guarantee the quality of each burger because it was a ghost kitchen model. Unlike his chocolate bar business, which is he's controlling directly. So, what are your thoughts on that?
You just gave my thoughts. He's got the contrast now of the like fixed variable D2C business that he's selling through Walmart or wherever else, right? Versus the every single experience someone gets with the burger is different. There's like any brand that is like basically the the thing you want the most control of is the consistency of the product, and you didn't have that. It just feels like that was like the first foray into, and maybe it was a pandemic timing thing too, right? Where that influenced it to some extent, where people weren't going anywhere. So he was smart enough to do something that would be delivered to people's houses, and now that's changed around a little bit. So I think there's a couple things at play, but makes a ton more sense for him to sell, like manufacture by the million, distribute to these massive retailers, and push it out that way.
Yeah, so our thesis isn't change. You just got to pick. I mean, like a freshly cooked burger maybe not be the best thing to use with your attention cannon,
There's
right?
more variables there, though, right?
Exactly right. Exactly. And then, like, I mean, if even if it's a global brand, it's like, how do you even like? There's no control over that, right? I think that's like there's a lot of slippage involved in a endeavor like that.
The crypto term slippage as well. It's so funny. But no, I will say it also brings up Trung. You might have a fun fact about this, but it kind of shows why McDonald's are really the GOATs, you know, like for franchise model, you know, keeping the quality control there, billions served or whatever the number is. Like it seems super easy just to grill a burger for 1 minute and put it on a bun, but there's a lot more to it than that.
I was about to say, it ain't easy. Not only is it not easy, you're right. The winner, okay, let me confirm one thing. So I'm looking at the MrBeast tweet right now. So he tweeted on the 16th. What's today?
The 20th.
Okay, so that's 4 days ago. So this is the most official thing I've seen. He said, somebody asked him, hey, is MrBeast burger done? And MrBeast replied, yeah, the problem with Beast Burger is I can't guarantee the quality of the order. When working with other restaurants, it's impossible to control it, sadly. And to be honest, I just enjoy Feastables 100 times more. Making snacks is awesome and something I'm way more passionate about. However, it looks like he deleted this tweet. I don't know the reason why he deleted it.
PR team got on him or something.
Yeah.
It's like what, dogging? Like now, because he's just like, he's just sewered every other feature ever with a ghost kitchen. Is that what do you think the PR team did? Yeah, I'm guessing they're done as the ghost kitchen model. They had 2,000 ghost kitchens in North America. I mean, you guys probably...
He also opened, I thought in the Mall of America, he opened one, right? A physical one too, yeah. I thought he did, but I just think in general...
though. Was it permanent? That's crazy.
I'm not sure.
It was, yeah.
I thought it was a permanent one, but I will say, just compared to, like you said, a chocolate bar or whatever, that's in a factory, you can do the quality control in the factory before it gets out. And also another thing to bear in mind is all of this stuff, it's like got his name directly on it. It's not like, you know, what Logan Paul and KSI have done with Prime.
Right.
Like that would be the equivalent of Logan Paul drink, which would be a really shit name for a drink.
Which every time you have a shit experience, you're like, fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Instead
Logan
of
Paul, what a prick. Can't even do these energy drinks right. No, but you know what I mean? Like a MrBeast burger, that is directly impacting his brand.
Right, yeah.
And you know what I realized when I was home? My nephew was talking about MrBeast. I can't remember if we talked about this. And I didn't realize, like, my nephew, I think is 5 or 6 now. Is that the age group people are watching his stuff, man? I thought they were like 8 or 12 or something.
We're in trouble. Either way, we're in trouble. But by the way, burger is also the shittiest food to get delivered.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a chicken ruby, is it? Because a chicken ruby, you could put in the microwave. A burger in the microwave is no go.
Separate rice, separate curry. You got the heating system benefiting the food instead of destroying the food. But in the case of a burger, your bread is just getting murdered.
MrBeast chicken tikka. Yeah. I think that's what we need, right? Can you imagine that?
You actually want to know what I love that you brought up this point? Because listen, this is why you come to NAN. You think we're just going to be the top news item? We're digging deep here. We're looking at the content commerce business model that we've been talking about for 2 years. But I love that Jack brought up that why burgers are the worst thing. Because I was listening to a podcast. It's called, I forgot what it's called, but it's really good.
Does it start with an R-C and end in B?
No. What it was, it's a pure food podcast. But they were talking to one of the DoorDash people. And you don't understand. the mechanics of delivery. Like we had to talk to restaurants to make new containers for fries. Like you're literally making new cardboard containers for French fries, exactly to Jack's point, because bro, if you get soggy fries, like fries are the hardest thing to deliver, right? The hardest
you
thing.
get soggy fries, that is eroding MrBeast's name, let's be honest.
Wendy's fries, 2 minutes after you leave the drive-thru, are done. They're done. If you don't finish the Wendy's fries within 2 minutes, they're absolutely done. So you're supposed to get delivery done. It's such a great point about the burger. So I think let me tie together what Jack kind of mentioned is like, and Bilal talked about what happened in the pandemic, right? Obviously everybody's delivering. So the MrBeast is like, all right, I got this giant 100 million like audience cannon, like, and remember he was helping a lot of people out. He's helping a lot of mom and pop restaurants that had basically been closed because of COVID. He's like, listen, do you have kitchen space? But as we're kind of discussing, this is like literally not. Do you think of from a standard standpoint, a worse thing to have done? I actually don't know if this was the worst one. Probably burritos, like something
I think
like
it's pretty
that.
insulting to your audience too. Like it's pretty. Don't you think? It's like they're not using the same stuff. It's like maybe it's the order of things in the burger, but like I don't know. Maybe just over time that realization is like you're really just arbing your name, like your brand equity, against like a shitty burger. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, it's not
like,
control.
You cannot control it over 2,000 things where it's like the meat comes from this farm and it's cooked this way on this equipment and
it's not in and out or Shake Shack level. Or even McDonald's. I think it shows the respect that's needed on those sort of brand, like those franchises, because it does take a lot to keep something. I remember learning at like GCSE business or something, like all the stuff that McDonald's has to keep it the same across the world, and they come and check.
Insane.
Did this come in 2 minutes or whatever it is? Obviously, they don't always do it. And then the way they actually do the localization in certain countries as well, which is quite interesting. Like in Saudi Arabia or in India, they wouldn't have beef; they would have another sort of thing or whatever. But it does show, like the other thing I'd say is margin-wise, I don't know for sure on this, but just thinking out loud, like the margins on restaurants and fast food is less than 5%, I'm pretty sure. Like if you've got a good working restaurant, which I know is not the same as fast food, it's like a 4% margin or something from the people I've spoken to. And that is like no room for messing up. And I'm sure.
And I think they did custom packaging and shit like that. So they probably were making nothing. So it's just like you're spending money to kill your brand.
Yeah, exactly. And they were probably just doing it to hit a certain revenue number so they can sell it in the future or whatever. But then there was also, but if you look at like sweets, or like candy or whatever they call it for what are they called again? MrBeast bars or what?
Feastables? Or
Feastables, all right. And also, if it's not called MrBeast Feastables, or are they called, have they got his name in it?
It's just Feastables.
That's actually back to our point earlier, right? Like it's separated from his name. Yeah, here we go.
It's not that separated.
Mr. Beast secret video. We will know when he's about to sell it, when he's not putting his face on it. Yeah. It's so
Jack,
good. It looks like a YouTube thumbnail as well.
We just got, I think it's brand management that separated MrBeast the person from the
wrong.
It's just, it looks like
brilliant.
It looks like literally the thumbnail. What's gonna win? A $1 burger, a $1 chocolate bar, $1 million chocolate bar.
It's so funny.
But let me crush a little bit on McDonald's, because Bilal brought it up, and I want to hammer home this point. And we're probably going to talk about this in a teaser next episode. We're going to talk a little about traveling, but right now we'll just tee this up. When you go to any McDonald's, anywhere in the world, if you're traveling and you're feeling a little bit down, just go find some golden arches, right? You sit in there, got the yellow glow, the fries that come out. You're gonna feel right.
See Trung there, 2 p.m. stone cold sober.
Yeah,
in his second meal of the day.
You're gonna feel like after you're 11 years old, you just finished a soccer tournament. It's 11 o'clock. The dad's in the minivan. He's taking all the kids out to McDonald's. One Happy Meal each, okay? One Happy Meal each. Who wants the apples? Who wants the fries? All right. So you're going there. Yeah, you're getting the 4 nuggets. You're getting the cheeseburgers. No pickles. I don't want pickles in my cheeseburger, okay? Get those pickles out of the kids.
There is that nostalgic feeling with McDonald's, though, is it? Like,
oh, my goodness,
I only eat fillet of fish from there because when I was a kid, that was the only halal thing there.
Bro, And it's
Tartar
the
sauce,
same
smashing it.
every single time.
Incredible.
This is just, you know what? This MrBeast burger, that's the summary. That's the takeaway from this. McDonald's,
You need
why
the
is it a
tartar
$300 million
sauce.
company? Now we know. There you go. That's why it's a $300
It
million
does need
company.
to slap. That's the way it comes back to that lesson we shared maybe a month ago by now, but it just has to, the product obviously matters, you know, and I think for too long, we're starting to get used to I haven't even tried Prime, and I'm sure it's not the worst, but I'm sure it's not the best either, but it's kind of sugary water with caffeine probably, right? So it doesn't need to be that good, but I think that sort of branding first business can work. But when it's actually a burger, there's other options. You can go to McDonald's, you can go to Burger King, you can go to Wendy's.
Sell software, dude. Sell a software as a service app.
Exactly.
A AI-powered research app, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you should be doing, MrBeast.
There we go. Barely.ai/NIA.
You can have it. It's yours, man.
Beastly.ai,
yeah. Beastly.ai. Last thing I'll add about MrBeast is because he tweeted, this is his last tweet from yesterday. I love you guys' thoughts on this. It's not directly related to MrBeast Burger, but it's a very interesting tweet. So this has 25 million views. He goes, sometimes I regret going on podcasts and sharing everything I know about YouTube. I thought people would use the knowledge to innovate and be inspired, but tons just copy exactly what I do and don't change anything. Kind of sad how many MrBeast clones there are. And then he goes in a follow-up tweet. Despite that, I'm still going to share everything I know publicly because life would be boring if I kept it all in my hands. Anyways, thoughts? What do you guys think about that?
Working in public
how much
has its downsides.
How much is he sharing? How much is he really
I will say I saw one
by putting
episode
the videos
with
out, you're going to get copied. I'm saying, like the fact that you're the best in the world at whatever this genre could be called is like whether you're going on podcasts to tell people how to do it or not. Like people emulate. I think is actually people overestimate what is copied from your advice versus what is copied from the product you put out into the world.
Oh, that's a good point.
In my mind, is like, yeah, you've posted thousands and thousands of hours of a very specific style of video, and people just reverse engineering it and doing the same thing. Change a couple variables.
It's like 100 times more people have watched this video, or 1,000 times have actually watched his videos and tried to emulate versus listen to a 3-hour pod on Rogan breaking it down. Do you know what I mean? I think most of his stuff is just...
Yeah, some of his stuff is like the advice he gives is like make 100 videos. Like I feel like his advice is way more about like be incredibly persistent, go over and over and over and over again. And then I don't know, man, everybody I think gets to that place where when you're doing something that you feel as though you pioneered, and then there's a bunch of people copying it, and it's everything is a combination of
let's ask somebody
previous formats.
Somebody in this room, somebody in this very podcast who pioneered a visual model that literally every single person on the internet has copied. And not only has copied, you told them to go copy you. So how do you tell us how that squares with, but dude,
that's a good
this
point.
right down the alleyway. How do you feel?
I used to get upset about it. And then as soon as I realized that was the product that you were creating, the thing you're putting out into the world, like it's the biggest compliment ever that people want to emulate it, or people want to, this is a very grandiose comparison, so excuse the Wright brothers, when they were trying to get a plane off the ground, were like, oh, these guys are copying us, they're trying to build a plane.
To space.
Exactly. It's ridiculous, but it's a good example. Litigating, they're like, stop building the plane, let's go and sue these guys that are trying to build a plane, let's go sue those guys that are trying to build a plane. And it's just the most memorable example where it's like, guys, you just should have carried on doing what you're doing, build the thing. If you have a good idea, inevitably people are going to copy. That's like basically how we evolve as a species, right? And I think when there's obviously, I don't know, brands and money involved and things of that nature, people get a little bit more upset about that. But it did annoy me to begin with. And I was like, this is just a behavior that seems to be a natural function of whatever I'm doing. So how can I like benefit from that behavior rather than like try and play whack-a-mole with this thing? Because that's not going to work either. And then the more energy I put into trying to shut down that stuff, the less energy I'm putting into the thing that you're doing that is worth copying in the first place. So it's and I can't think of a great example of somebody who switched mentalities and just, you can't allocate your resources to both things at the same time, right? You have to, if your goal is to make something that people want to use, the byproduct of that is other people are going to want to copy your journey to some degree, get inspired by it. It's all just, I think there are obviously 3% rule. We could get into that too. Like there are ways in which to take inspiration from something and build on top of it, advance the thing versus just a straight copy. But
Jack,
I'm surprised to hear him to say that, to be honest. It's like, seems crazy to someone that has that understanding of the internet. It's like, that's
what's going to happen when you're the best. Jack, I was going to ask, but specifically with your stuff, and for people who haven't followed your stuff, which is probably like 3 people listening to this, but just the visualized value style, black background, white, diagrams and illustrations or whatever, you would literally see people copy and paste that exact style, didn't even change the colors, right? And like a lot of them have actually grown a decent following. What did it really only hurt in air quotes or annoy you in the beginning when they would actually get crazy reach and you're like, well, I didn't even get that reach with my one, and they put it in a 10-part thread and somehow hack this sort of thing?
It used to annoy me, but then like after a certain amount of time, like the internet polices it for you too. It's like
people start commenting
here. Yeah, you got that from here, and like in that case, most of those people were just aggregating information anyway. So I don't know, the reach that they got, I don't know, in my mind, it isn't like a 1-for-1 comparison. Like they didn't take it from you. It's just it just started a lot further out from the nucleus of the thing, and maybe it eventually gets its way back. And this is like the really philosophical, heady justification for digital provenance, NFTs, all this stuff. Who did it first? And if you're able to like have a immutable record of that image, then the growth of it over time and the reach of it over time eventually can be attributed back to its original. But I think these things take a lot longer to play out than we think. So man, like just I think the basic model for it is like you can only ever really expect to capture a fraction of the value you create if you're doing it on an open network like a Twitter or building a website or using any of these social networks. And the what's the Dawkins book that explains memes? You remember the name of that book?
The Selfish Gene.
The Selfish Gene. So the idea that memes, images, even video formats, whatever else, will replicate like genes do, in that the ones that have the most impact influence the most people and propagate in the same way that that happens biologically too. So it's like trying to fight nature. Don't fight the Fed, as we say on the pod.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Let me add a quick thing to what
Jack
said about the replication of ideas. This one's probably a little bit too deep of a rabbit hole. Could literally just be its own episode. But do you guys ever read any Cormac McCarthy's book? The famous author died last week. He wrote the book that became No Country for Old Men. I don't know if you guys seen that movie.
Wow. Classic.
Yeah, super dark. Anyways, he's considered one of the greatest novelists of the past century. But he wrote one nonfiction piece of work for Nautilus, and he brought something up that I had never realized before. And I love you guys' thoughts on this. That's a pretty mind blowing idea. He's like, humans have been around, whatever. Some form of humans have been around hundreds of thousands up to millions of years, or maybe 1,000,000+ years, right? Language itself is much younger. And he's just like, language is such a, to your point about memes and things that just spread, language itself is literally like a virus. Like humans survived, and he's just like, language is not necessary for survival on planet Earth. There are 5,000 other species or 10,000 other species that don't have language, and they're surviving, right? They're propagating. Language itself is truly like this crazy virus that didn't exist. And the reason he brought it up was he juxtaposed it against, this is why you should actually listen to your unconscious more. Your unconscious has been there since the very beginning. This thing that you can't really explain, the gut feeling, the instincts, that's literally been evolutionarily from the beginning. But language is so powerful that it kind of came out of nowhere, swept around the entire globe in terms of humans. And this is when people say, it's like, just trust your instincts. I think that sealed it for me. That's like, I understand what you're saying now. It's like, there's been something there that's evolutionary, been there since the beginning. Language is much younger. And when you try to talk your way through things and always try to explain the way you feel, it actually isn't sufficient, because there's something that's been there way before that. So I don't know. That kind of blew my mind.
What if your subconscious telling you to buy a shitcoin? That's the problem I have. You know, that is I think that's another type of
there it is, right?
psychological
that's the
problem.
Yeah, that's why you're rationalizing. You're using your language to beat it down, right?
That's the FOMO gene. Yeah, no, beautiful. I love this discussion. I will move us on though, boys, just because we've done 25, 30 minutes, and we're on question 1. So this is perfect. Just for people, so you know, we're probably going to do a 2-part AMA here because there's quite a lot of good questions. So we'll do this part,
and we're traveling.
And then next week, and we're traveling. We'll get some good travel discussion going on too. But that was great. Thanks for sharing that, boys. Let's move on to the next one. Role of Twitter. This is from Elena or Alina. I'm not sure how to say your name, but I think Elena. Predictions for the role of Twitter in society in 10 years. And part 2 to this from Chris McCoy. He said, is Twitter now just Fox News 2.0? Controversial take. Maybe we take, I've grouped them together, but what do you guys think?
Jack,
first predictions for Twitter in 10 years.
Why don't we deal with the Fox
one first? Yeah, that's an easy answer.
I'll answer that. Chris, well, first of all, shout out to Chris, a couple, I think a bit over a month ago. Listener. Yeah, OG NA listener. We're always chatting with him. Thank you, Chris. And also he helped one of my buddies out for a situation he had. So double thank you, Chris. That's a great question. I've seen that pitch. I've seen that framing. And a lot of people trying to frame it like that because obviously Tucker Carlson is doing his show exclusively on Twitter right now. I think some of that's contractual. So Tucker Carlson, for the people that don't know, was the lead anchor, or not lead anchor, probably the most popular host on Fox over the past decade. It was like Bill O'Reilly, who was pushed out for sexual harassment lawsuit, and then Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson had to leave because of a settlement that Fox did with Dominion voting. They made the machines during the 2020 elections and the machines in general. And it turns out in the legal process that basically everyone at Fox was like, okay, this whole line of narrative that the election was stolen and the machines were broken is like, we kind of know this is BS and we're throwing this company Dominion under the bus. We're doing it willingly, destroying that company. But whatever, it's our narrative because our listener base is 65 and older, leans conservative. We're just going to give them what they want. So they had to pay like almost $800 million out of pocket as accountability. Tucker, it's not clear what happened, but he literally said straight up during the discovery process that he didn't believe the election was stolen. He said he hated Donald Trump, but in front of the audience, he was giving the Fox viewers what they wanted, right? So it was like such a clear split between his personal beliefs and his public beliefs. The other thing is obviously a lot of more conservative voices have come back. I don't even say come back. I think a lot of this is kind of anecdotal, but people are certainly more free to say what they want without necessarily just getting banned on the conservative side, because as you remember, the Hunter Biden laptop being the most apex example of a liberal bias in Twitter's moderation system. So to answer the question directly, is it becoming Fox News? I think this is my answer. It's a 2-part answer. My first part is this. I think, especially amongst us, how we're viewing the tech Twitter crowd, it definitely does seem that way because obviously Elon controls the conversation in the tech Twitter crowd and the media crowd in general, maybe less so in politics, although having brought on Ron DeSantis in Twitter Spaces and RFK Jr., the Republican and then Democrat presidential candidates, that seems like he is getting obviously more into that. But the other part I want to say is this, and this is from something that a Japanese buddy of mine always tells me. Twitter is huge in Japan. It's massive, right? And my buddy sends me crazy Japanese content once a week. He's like, check out this other world of Twitter you have no idea about. And then he told me that. And then I got messages over the past year from a lot of people basically saying, Trung, you're in such a bubble. You don't understand. There's like a whole other world of Twitter. Like 250, 300 million daily active users. The majority of people do not care about anything that's being described right now, right? Like my Japanese buddy, he has no idea who Ron DeSantis is. He has no idea who RFK Jr. is, right? He has no idea about all these like woke culture wars that are going on. He doesn't care. So is Twitter becoming like the new Fox? I think with a subsection of its user base, it is, in the sense of that's where people are going out. Tucker's there, and there's more willing voices to be allowed there. Daily Wire, for example, is putting all their content on Twitter because a lot of their content is getting taken off of YouTube. So there's certainly that perception. But unlike Fox News, that's all Fox News is programming, right? Like that's Fox News' entire 24-hour programming is conservative stuff. Whereas I think I think within our pocket, yes, it does appear more conservative, but I think in Twitter in general, I would say no.
Yeah, great answer. I'll just give a very quick answer as well. I agree, no, essentially. And the reason is because Twitter, like all social media, is kind of what you make it, and not in like a inspirational way, in like a literally click the favorite and retweet button and you're going to see more of that shit. So if
not
you
even that, right? If you hover over a video for X amount of time. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the signal is showing you what you want. So if you like Fox News stuff or conservative stuff or conspiracy theories, you're going to see more of that. Sorry, I didn't mean to literally group all three of those together, but that was my subconscious bias.
Yeah.
Well, because we were just talking about RFK Jr. as well. That was another talking point this week. So that's kind of my short answer is if you are into football like I am, I have a completely different account I'll look at football stuff on because I don't want to mess up the algorithm. I strictly see football stuff, right? So it is just basically what you want it to be. Jack, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that one.
No, that was a good summary, boys. I was just going to say, I think you covered both of the angles I was going to say. I think America is uniquely mental as well. I'll just end it on that one.
Well, in that way, Case, we should answer the first part of the question from Elena, which is predictions for the role of Twitter in society in 10 years. 10 years is a long time. So let's say we're in 2023, so 2033, that's a long time from now. Will we all be...
The vision is for it to not even be called Twitter by then, or is it, you think?
X or something, right? What's it called? X app? Well, that sounds like something else.
The X app, yeah. It does sound like something else, and I know
sounds like what Twitter was also known for a few years ago.
Yeah. And Reddit. Let me add
Apple
one
goggles
point.
on by that point. Yeah. Sorry. All right.
There's a lot of undertones going on right now.
Yeah.
The 10 years. This is what this is a more macro kind of commentary, not specific to Twitter. But I think it will help answer Elena's question. I do think, and we've talked about this. There is just movements toward. It's a life cycle of kind of social networks, right? Okay, let's actually use Facebook as an example. Starts off in universities, Ivy League universities, then goes out to all the other universities in the country. Then it goes global, and then kind of ages up. And now, literally, I haven't used Facebook in 8 years. I have not used Facebook in 8 years, but I know they have 2.5 billion plus users, right? So someone's using it. But a lot of the usage of Facebook has gone to Messenger and the groups. And I think, honestly, that's kind of the nature of social media. I think the way that communications are happening. And how many group chats are you guys in? I mean, how much time is Jack spent on Discord, right? Like, people talked about this. It's like the movement away from just like this model of one-to-all broadcasting, where like I broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people. Jack does the same. And like that model is actually humans really we're talking about humans and evolutionary stuff. Broadcasting to hundreds of thousands of people your thoughts and expecting like everyone to be on the same page is just not how we were designed as a species. And so that's why you're seeing all these like messaging apps like pop up. Yeah, all these different groups pop up. So I think the answer is I honestly don't think anything will displace Twitter. I think we talked about this. Actually, let me throw this out to you guys. I think I said this exactly. I love your thoughts on it now. If somebody were to launch from scratch a Twitter competitor today, from scratch, like a true competitor. I know there are a couple. There's Blue Sky, which is trying to do the open source, decentralized Mastodon, but like, and then Notes with Substack. But like from scratch, all you're doing is text. You're trying to recreate it. Would that be fundable? The answer is no. It's completely unfundable business. Because the text only, like the way it was, like 15 years ago, like the scale you'd have to do to get to 250 million users, the acquisition only on text, and to be real time, and to get those types of people. Well, that's my feelings. Blah.
Well,
I think you have to thoughts on this.
It's a good question. I would say, Well, one, I would say Twitter nowadays is obviously moving to beyond way more than text. Obviously, the images and videos are there, and they seem to be doubling down on video. We saw that in the last week. There was a discussion around that. Elon has talked about vertical video being more of a priority. So I know that wasn't a question. To come back to your question, I think the only one which will be interesting to see scale-wise is Facebook. I forgot what they're calling it, but their launch of a Twitter clone.
But again, that's not from scratch, right? Like we're talking.
Yeah, okay, from scratch. You're right. No, I think from scratch is very difficult. There has to be a value proposition beyond what Twitter is, and Twitter's been around for so long, and so many people still don't use it, right? Like the amount of people that use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that know about Twitter and don't use it, or they tried it 7 years ago. Even like a lot of us, we probably used it in 2010 or whenever it was early on. Like I can speak for myself and lots of people I know since 2020, they came back. Like even Trung, I know you started just posting really late again and then got into it, and it felt like a different Twitter during 2020, 2021. So especially in like tech world. So I agree. I don't think it would be that easy for someone to go from scratch, but there has to be a real value proposition that is different. And the only one that seemed theoretical was in the hype of the decentralized narratives going around in 2020, 2021. I forgot what it's called, BitClout or whatever. Well, yeah, all those ones that we talked about on the first few episodes, they never hit that scale, obviously, but something where you feel like close, it's the same. Right? Yeah, if it was the same scale and it worked as well, but also you were getting paid to use it, let's say. But that, again, is something Twitter can turn on, which they are going to be turning on for creators and stuff. So I agree with your point. I don't think someone can do that.
Let me put a thumb on why I brought that up. The reason I brought that up to answer Elena was I think as a real-time breaking source, it still is
it's the best,
vision that Elon has. It's like it's a central nervous system. I don't think anything will ever be able to just have. It's just so hard. It's a network effect that people keep talking about, right? It's like to get the politicians, the media people, just regular users. Sport. Well, here's the thing. Your sports example, I think that's the best example. Your
sport you want to go talk about right now, yeah.
Feed, right? Is there anything even remotely close to the real?
No, nothing.
It's not, right?
Yeah. And I think people, similar to the MrBeast burger, I think people underestimate what it takes to create something at that speed and that amount of data going through it. I mean, obviously, like you said, not starting from scratch, Facebook, someone else could do that. And interestingly, we'll get my Google shilling once a week here. The idea you talked about, these subgroups, do you remember Google Plus, the flop of Google Plus, right? But the central idea of Google Plus, I remember speaking to the guy, Irish guy, went to Intercom, I forgot his name now, really smart guy. He was basically the head of research for this product side of things for Google Plus. And I remember speaking to him one-on-one, and he basically said exactly what you said. Humans were not designed to spread out, the same message to 1,000 people. That's the problem with Facebook, problem with Twitter. And their central thesis was we're going to create circles. So I can have my football team stuff in one circle, and I can have the tech guys in one circle, and high school friends in another. The problem with it was, I think the idea was actually quite sound. The implementation of it was not good enough to actually, beat that friction.
They don't have the social DNA, right?
Google just doesn't have social DNA. The idea made sense, but they needed an existing audience to do that with. I think they should have done it with YouTube, or something like that, because they already had close to 1 billion people or whatever using it. So that idea is actually what we've now seen with, Instagram doesn't have it fully, but they have the close friends thing. If you see people post that in on stories and stuff sometimes. Twitter, you can create a list, but no one's really doing it still. I mean, the closest to it is just we've all got a new algorithm. It's more of a algorithm based on interest versus the social graph. Like it used to be a social graph, who you follow, and now it's interest graph. So I think that is where we've moved to. Instead of asking a human to categorize the people, it just does it itself, and it does it automatically and better than before. So that was the kind of change that we didn't really know was coming.
Thanks for the Google knowledge drop, man. Damn, dude, you're right. Google Plus was ahead of its time, dude.
Yeah, Emerald Sea. I don't know if that was the internal thing. I remember finding these internal documents and I think someone didn't change the permissions, and I was reading through it.
You might have to bleep an entire segment, dude. I know Google is litigious.
Yeah, they'll be knocking down the door.
NIA does not have the financial resources to buttress this legal battle.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think that was Jack, anything else to add on Elena's question around where
the 10
Twitter
years
will be 10 years from now? Role of
I think
Twitter
the ambition
in 10 years
is WeChat level. Like, I think the financial component of Twitter, I mean, not even in 10 years, in probably 2 or 3 years, will be from what I understand,
like
that is a
payments
massive
and stuff
goal.
like that, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And being able to purchase things on Twitter. And I think the central nervous system is my favorite metaphor for what Twitter is. L1 of communication, as we've talked, the fountain of memes. We said a lot of different analogies for Twitter on here.
Incredible.
Everything else is layers and layers out from Twitter. That's where it happens.
Yeah, great. Well put. So yeah, I guess the summary is we still think it'll be very important. We don't think anyone is really taking this place for what it is. And I think another thing we've talked about on the show before is we think it's underappreciated in a way for how much impact it has with early adopter groups. And like stuff that a lot of, especially in tech, obviously, a lot of stuff goes there and then you'll see 6-12 months later filtering, like even just like entrepreneurship category of business, right? Like doing these podcasts, business podcasts, you'll see stuff that's a thread that is literally posted 6 months later on Instagram or like one of Trung's threads. Like you see it on those AI generated TikToks like a month later because there's a computer doing it. And then you'll see 6 months later, entrepreneurship quote tweets on Instagram has got like a carousel of your thread or something.
What's crazy is that Twitter's not even top of funnel, right? Like these Discord chats are related, like the
4chan,
Reddit's, honestly 4chan. Well, the last thing I'll add to this is I recently chat with somebody, a good friend, does not super online at all, never used ChatGPT, never used it once, and I think just answers your question. It's like the dispersion of technology, and I think the larger takeaway is we're in such bubbles. Like the three of us are in such a very specific bubble, right? Of tech and very online tech. But yeah, great questions.
All right, let's move on. Go on. Sorry, go for it, Jack.
Sorry, I was just going to say the trend of like the Tucker Carlson thing is an amazing example of like the true reach of a platform like that is like unfathomable, and the transparency of what is being consumed is very different. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I can't even really unpack it more than that. It's just like, it's hard to imagine that other media entities don't follow that, and why wouldn't you? It seems crazy, like the captive attention and the free distribution and the network effects of interacting with people who, like, this is a weird example. You see the Bill Ackman tweet today about public health experts. Like, previously, I would imagine a statement like that would have been like one segment on CNBC, 2 minutes in the morning. And whoever, like, that's playing on mute in like a couple office buildings, versus this thing that gets circulated, shared privately, saved, bookmarked, responded to, turns into this like piece of a longer conversation that's all threaded together. Just like fundamentally, I think that's another thing that is some of these other networks don't have. This is like a fundamental piece of Twitter infrastructure that I think is overlooked, is like the ability to thread pieces together, where like I can link a tweet in, and preview a tweet in response to another tweet. I can link my own tweets together. I can kind of create this architecture of information, versus like a YouTube or a Facebook where that isn't as much a part of the architecture design of the platform. Yeah, like you have a post and you can navigate to a post URL, but you can't, like, it doesn't feel as interconnected. Like there's something about the design of Twitter from an information architecture perspective that
it's insane,
is superior and helps you link ideas together. Like Trung, you do an amazing job of this. It's like, hey, I wrote this article about this thing. Here's this tangential thing that might be interesting. Go to that. Here's this other thing that might be interesting. And throughout the story, you can kind of put all these different links out to other threads that stay in the platform, but have relationships to one another. And I think that's an underrated piece of why the central nervous system metaphor is so compelling too.
I'll tell you doubly why that's very interesting. What Jack says, like, we know this, guys. We've all been in places where you got to convert. That friction of going off platform, it's enough to kill that flow that Jack's kind of describing, right? But if it's all in platform, the friction's gone. People won't churn through the story. And Jack brought something up that I did want to opine on to answer Lena's question also. I think Twitter actually has a chance to give YouTube a little bit of run on the video side. And I think it has a huge opportunity in podcasts. But podcasting is obviously much smaller than video. But they got a lot of work
it
to
is
do.
for a number of views and stuff, but the time spent is so high that it's worth doing both for them. And I have a request, Trung, because I know you speak to the Twitter crew. You have spoken to them in the past. And if anyone listening from Twitter, I have a few friends actually listening from Twitter, just pass on the message. An easiest win is just give that background play ability, because now you've got someone like, these guys. It's coming. Okay, because that is a huge win. I don't know if that's going to be a premium feature or free, but if they go free, it is something that YouTube is not doing, which they should be.
Oh, you're right. That's in the YouTube Premium. No,
yeah, it's in YouTube Premium.
The thing is, like, it was worth. Dude, I paid $20 a month for that feature.
Me too. And if Twitter, I can understand if Twitter adds it as a premium feature, which is fair enough. But if they made it a free feature, their numbers will the
acquisition will be crazy. Yeah,
crazy. And like, you can put Tucker's thing straight up, we've tried with our pods a few times, like 3-4 times. We've put up our videos, and we'll get a decent amount of people
it's
listening.
Good awareness, right? It's just like,
this
guy has a podcast. Like, here's the reality. Nobody's watching 80 minutes on Twitter.
That's the thing,
right?
right?
You can watch.
Go on, Jack.
I was going to say, you could watch 100 hours of bum fights on loop in the top corner.
Exactly.
While you scroll.
Exactly. No, but the truth is, if they made that background play ability the same way, you can do it for Twitter Spaces, right? So Twitter Spaces, they already have that ability, which makes sense. It's audio first thing. I think a lot of people who aren't as close to podcasting don't realize how important that is for getting people to use something listen to an hour-long thing. 98% of people need the background play, because you're not just sitting there for an hour for most people. So if you just allow that's a great activity, point. You're gonna just have
on
people
Spaces
saying,
specifically.
Yeah, on Spaces I think they already allow on Spaces, but for these videos, like
they do. But that's what I'm saying. That's why it killed like a Clubhouse, because you have this, like, you're never bored.
Exactly. You just have it on passively. And so if you've got Tucker's show, never bored, But go on, School fights on loop, But anyway, I would just say, if they can add that, and there's a way to, that is one. And, if there was a dedicated feed for those long form things, would also be great, but that's maybe a different discussion. I just think it incentivizes, and I'll just give some background as well. I've been talking to some people around, like, from the media side, and asking them, when you sell podcast ads, let's say for Creator Lab, I normally have to say, this is number of people listen, I'm going to charge you X amount per 1,000 listens or whatever. Now, previously, you could do that for YouTube, but you're not doing that for Twitter. But if there was actually legitimate background play, numbers would go up significantly, and that's another commercial opportunity. And if people, what I'm saying is, I've heard from people they're willing to even experiment with that. So from Twitter side, that is money in the bag that they're not getting right now.
Business, Bilal.
There we go.
Business,
Bilal. Back in the game. Here we go. Yeah. Business, Bilal.
Well, I was like, listen, this is pretty. You're right though. It's
true.
NBA Bilal.
Yeah, we got NBA Bilal. Yeah. Well, I will say we're gonna move on to a couple other questions, and then we'll do our part 2, because we've already almost hit our 45 minutes an hour. Chef
we're good, man. We're good.
Chef asked, where does Brother B buy his Google suits? That we'll throw that one in there. That's our boy Chef, who's incredible. Congrats to your West Ham win, mate. But
Matalan.
It just depends on the day. It's either a little Savile Row ting, or it's a little Zara. If you're not sure you're gonna keep it, you just gotta throw it out. You know what I mean?
It's a little Savile Row ting.
A little Savile Row ting.
What?
Anyway,
wait. Hold on. You were just at our friend Mario Gabriel's wedding. Is that correct?
I took 2 suits for that. They're actually right behind me somewhere.
I saw real fresh tux.
Clean tux.
You might have to throw.
I'll go send him. I'll send it to Rafa too.
What was that about?
Well, the other wedding I'm going to, I'm a groomsman, and we all need to wear tux. So I just thought,
Well,
let
what
me
was
go
that?
brown bond style.
How many
you know what I mean?
grand was that?
No, it was about $1,000, to be fair. It was about $1,000. I think it was about,
This
but
guy's
yeah,
like, oh, Sean, what do I look like? Yeah, it's about a G.
about G, yeah. But it wasn't, I was looking at some more expensive one, but I was like, how am I can't really justify this. You know what I mean? It's kind of an unnecessary purchase
You can
already.
and you will.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe on my own wedding, maybe I'll go ham on it. Wait, Jack, did you wear a tux on your wedding? I feel like I saw.
No, suit.
Trung, what about you? Tux or?
Beach wedding.
Beach wedding, okay.
Suspenders, bow tie.
Ooh, bow tie. Yeah, I think I've seen a picture actually.
No suit jacket.
Oh,
brother.
yeah, it was too
like
hot
35.
in that piece.
Yeah.
Was it like a flower shirt or what? What was the vibe for it?
No,
no patterns?
the bow tie was very floral.
Yeah, okay, all right. We'll move on to the last question for this part, I think. Our boy Zaid Admani asked about the Twitch drama. Also, go check out Zaid's videos on TikTok. He's an absolute killer on there. Yeah, animal on there. One of my favorite TikTok accounts to follow. Thoughts on the Twitch drama? Does Twitch have too big of a network effect to fail, or will YouTube or TikTok take a big chunk of live streamers? Is Kick a real competitor? How are they able to handle NBA contracts to streamers? Honestly, I didn't know half of that, to be honest. So do either of you know what the controversy is with Twitch recently?
I can give a little, this is a great question, by the way.
Because I know Zaid, sorry, real quickly, Zaid's been doing some lives on TikTok, so I'm curious if he's also been doing Twitch lives at the same time, and he's curious, but I know he does a bit of live as well.
So I actually want to say something about the power of live streaming, right? And Bilal, I actually love your thoughts on this, because you just mentioned, like 5 minutes ago, I talked about, hey, podcast, much smaller opportunity than video, but Bilal's like, but wait a second. Those listeners, those fans are super valuable because how long they're on platform, right?
Depth versus breadth, yeah.
The top live streamers will get someone to watch them for 6 to 8 hours.
It's
You're
incredible.
talking about depth, dude? Like the top live streamers.
Have you guys seen Speed? The guy, the young black guy who's absolutely insane. He's got the most incredible... He's the one who's been trying to meet Ronaldo, like the footballer, for the last like a year, and he just met him last week. So
oh my god!
He's got 17. Yeah, he's got 17 million subscribers. He's one of the biggest live
on Twitch.
I think on Twitch, but I have a Twitch or YouTube, but I think it's Twitch. He's so entertaining, crazy.
Well, here, let me. So my first part about the economics of live streaming is it's super lucrative for the top people, right? That's why. So Zaid had referred to a previous deal. So the deal he referred to just now happened, I think earlier this week or last week. A website, a live streaming website called Kick. They brought on a streamer named XQC, and they gave him a deal, incentives worth up to 100 million. This isn't the first time it's happened. Ninja, you guys remember Ninja, the Fortnite player? He was brought a fat contract over to Mixer, a streaming a competitor to Twitch, and I think Microsoft might have been involved.
Was there also
in that,
Rumble? Is Rumble? I know people
Rumble
are doing
like a YouTube
for more
alternative.
YouTube, but they do live stream as well though?
They do, yeah. So
okay, there's a few players though.
I think the interest in this, and then you bring up a good point about the ecosystem. So Twitch is the leader in this space. It does have a huge network effect, and I think similar to kind of stuff that Jack had mentioned about Twitter, how everything's kind of interconnected. You know, you have profiles on Twitch, a lot of commenting's going on. You can flip between different users. It's held on to, it's held on to a lot of the IP, personal IP and video gaming IP. But I'll throw this out to Jack. These type of moves feel very similar to what Spotify did to compete against Apple and podcasts, right? They threw massive bags to people to bring over super talented people with audiences. But I think the Ninja example didn't work out because Mixer shut down. Not enough of Ninja's audience came over to Mixer. So I don't know how deep you are in the live streaming, video game live streaming space, Jack, but I mean, what are your general thoughts? Yeah. Knowing that...
Not very. I don't. Yeah, the Mixer thing is like... I think I remember that was a few years ago, right? No?
Yeah.
And that guy was the top streamer at the time, which I think people... The Spotify analogy is a good one, I guess, because but I guess that's a little different because the network effect that exists on a video platform like that is maybe stronger than an audio product. Like I don't have enough of a read on it, but it makes sense that they're throwing insane capital at it. Maybe this is like a weird analogy, but it's like sports leagues. The stuff like the Messi thing is a interesting analogy there. It's like if you're a talent of some description and you're joining some franchise or network, the one that needs you in order to grow the network is obviously going to throw ridiculous money at you versus the entrenched. And Twitch, I have no idea on the difference in scale, but it feels like they've been at it for a good amount of time. But there's been some like just fumbles on their creator relations in recent months is what I've read, right? Like the way they're compensating people or the way they're taking streams
they
down.
Changed the split. That was a big one.
That was the controversy, the big controversy, I thought.
Yeah, it was, two. I think Jack brought up the second one. So the taking streams down because of controversial content, that is obviously one that's always existed, moderation. The other one was they recently switched from a 70-30 split. So the streamer got 70% of ad revenue to 50-50. And that is, but that 50-50 is YouTube, right? So I think the lesson from that is like kind of a business 101 lesson. Never give something that you will then take away, right? If you just started at 50-50, no one's saying shit. And it's like 101. Although they may not have known this years ago, I think Twitch is a money-losing operation. It's owned by Amazon, so they've allowed it. And it's probably not that big of a deal for this acquisition. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with, to ask Zaid specifically, I think the network effect will win out. I do think, however, if you're speaking about network effect, I think Twitter, another chance for Twitter. They had Periscope, they had live stream, they have the built-in network. Like, Hick is probably going to go the same way as Mixer. Mixer was owned by Microsoft, right? And they still shut it down. And Microsoft has their own like ups and downs with gaming. But if Microsoft didn't want to stomach the cost for it, I find it difficult to believe that Kick will be able to.
This is going back to the Twitter comment too, is like the embedded context in Twitter as a platform feels like gives you the opportunity to launch all of these different types of media experiments. Like Spaces having the ability to pin a tweet, for example, is like the ability to build a network and a reputation on a platform like Twitter, to me, feels like there's a more comprehensive set of tools to do that versus just the live stream.
Yeah.
And I don't use any of the live stream platforms, so I don't know how they compare, but it does feel like, and also I have no idea on the user data of like young people on Twitter. It's pretty low, right? Like most kids are going straight to the TikToks of the world. Yeah.
But I think your comparison, Jack, was actually really was a great comparison of live sports, because it's really about why is live important. And I think that's why the question Spotify asked was, why is long form podcasting important? And that was their big bet. And again, it comes down to, for them, the depth and the influence of like a Rogan or a Call Her Daddy within her community or whatever. And that was their big bet, because they know, one, there's radio, long form audio dollars to be made there. But on live, like you said, regardless of it not being live sports, it's live content. So the engagement you get from someone watching a live sports game is similar to well, it's probably not exactly the same as a live streamer, because live streamer is probably a little bit more background and you can listen all day. But those people who can command that much attention, you know, like Speed has got 17 million subscribers, I believe. And like a lot of the big guys, they're beyond just gaming now, right? Like some of those guys started with gaming, like Ninja and stuff, but so many of them are like way beyond that by this point. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of like people in hip hop, like DJ Academics. If you've ever seen his stuff, he's like one of the main kind of like, I don't know what you want to call him. He was like a blogger and then he became a streamer as well now. But I don't follow anyone on live stream, but I see all their clips on Instagram by the time. I'm like the laggard in that situation. But that's what happens, like they have little pockets of subcultures the way Twitter does that is disproportionate, has disproportionate amount of impact and eyeballs on it, that then gets out to all these meme pages and meme accounts and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's been a valuable thing for them to go after. But yeah, I don't know the answer to his actual question about how does it play out, because I don't know enough about the controversy. But I agree, like if they've got a head start, it's very difficult to mess that up. At the same time, as we talked about last week, Trung, with Reddit, like these are community-based platforms or creator-based platforms. So if you piss them off, like they will go elsewhere if they're going to get paid more. So
it can unwind, right?
Like it could unwind very quickly.
Goes both ways.
Exactly. So I think that's a great way to end that one.
All right, people. All right. Something hit the wire. Just
one
talking
last
about timeliness. Thing. One more thing. Just imagine I'm Tim Cook on stage right now. Oh, by the way, one more thing. Let's go back to our roots, boys. NIA. So Jack's got a nice tweet up on here. Jack, could you read this tweet from Crypto Lynn? What does it say?
It says BlackRock tells the SEC to FUD crypto. Crypto dips. BlackRock buys Bitcoin. BlackRock launches ETF. SEC magically eases off. Pension funds allocate to BlackRock. BTC halving. BTC pumps into quantitative easing and rate cut. June to November 2025. Bitcoin all-time high. Rolex and Lambos on the timeline. Dump into oblivion.
Yeah, not investment advice. Okay, but let me frame that amazing. So Jack sent that tweet yesterday, and I actually looked up my crypto holdings for the first time in 18 months. I'm like, oh, let me see what I'm sitting on right now. When that pump happens, not investment advice, not investment advice. However, a couple of things did happen. Jack, let me say the main point. Traditional finance, TradFi, has come for crypto, people. They've been circling. The SEC's been fudding along, throwing out lawsuits against Coinbase, lawsuits against Binance. Granted, not saying these lawsuits were unfounded, but in the case of Coinbase, they let Coinbase go public, and then 2 years later, they're like, oh, by the way, the stuff we were cool with 2 years ago, we're not cool with now. So I thought that was a little bit shady. However, this morning, and I guess this morning will now be tomorrow, EDX crypto exchange goes live offering Bitcoin and Ether trading. This, people, is backed by Charles Schwab, one of the biggest brokers in America. I think it's a $40 billion company. Fidelity, one of the largest asset managers in the world, and a little somebody called Citadel Securities, who you may remember from the GameStop saga. So there you go, people. So they are, okay, this is the key. It's non-custodial. So they're not going to have the FTX situation where when you send FTX $1, it's going straight into SBF's pocket and then to a bunch of media publications that need to start up funding. That's not what's happening here. This is a non-custodial exchange. They will allow other networks to trade within their platform. I mean, listen, the first tweet that Jack said, nailed it. I don't know if that's the exact playbook, but that's kind of what it's looking like right now. And a BlackRock ETF is coming. Do you know how many times BlackRock has been told for an ETF, told no for an ETF filing? One time. I think what are they, Jack? 556?
575 to 1, something like that, yeah.
Wait, what was the one time? Was it crypto related?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Probably.
So, Jack, this is you're the most crypto person right now. What is your thoughts on everything that just happened?
It's hard to imagine that these guys don't have the inside track on the regulatory outcome of this situation we're experiencing right now. Is that fair to say?
I hold Coinbase and I'm choked, so the answer is yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, feels like buying pressure to me, not investment advice.
Feels like
This is, yeah, we're going to reiterate the name of the podcast here.
Let's get,
hey, but by the way, I should say this. I read a great tweet earlier. I don't know who wrote it. It was like, these guys looking for yield somewhere. Treasuries. People like completely changed their allocation to assets over the last couple of years. What is the most, I think if you're talking about like assets that have capital inflowing in the next number of generations, feels like to not have a part of the upside of crypto for these large-scale asset managers when, 30% of Americans hold crypto. And I think the younger you go on a survey, kids value or like think about crypto as an asset that they would allocate some of their capital towards. So just like, even as a marketing exercise, this thing is like, if it exists and you're an asset manager, you have to have exposure to it, right? If there are countries that are beginning to like write legislation to the UK, we should have done a whole pod on this, Bilal. You were just there. Sunak's play for the, the crypto-friendly legislation to get to kickstart the technology boom of the 2020s in the UK. But anyway, the digression feels like they have to have exposure to this. Like it's past the point of like this is an ignorable thing for institutions of that size. Even like, ironically, I think the SEC's acknowledgement of it and the amount of resources that have been allocated to going after it in a strange way validates its size, right? Validates its existence. So, yeah, not surprising. And
not investment advice,
but very, yeah, but it also seems weird that, or not weird, it would be strange to me for these announcements to be made in unison without a understanding of the likelihood of the outcome.
Yeah.
But again, there's been crazy news like this before. There was a Fidelity story a couple of years ago where they like offered crypto as a like institutional product. I don't know how much friction actually exists. Like how much capital is held back by the non-existence of a BlackRock ETF? Like, is there a meaningful amount of capital that they already manage that they would allocate to that? I don't know. Because you can get exposure to Bitcoin today, not as an individual, pretty easily, right? It's just a case of institutional allocation, I'm assuming. And what, Grayscale? What is that, Trung? That's like a trust or something?
GBTC or something,
it's the worst. It's just, let me say, let's end it with this. Grayscale, Arthur Hayes has called it, I'm a fee donkey. I'm just kicking out to Grayscale, 2.5%. And that's just...
Is it 2.5%?
I think their management fee is obscene.
Oh, man, I did not know that.
And they're trading under net asset value,
instead
like 50%
of just buying,
discount.
Instead of just buying
I'm
Bitcoin,
MicroStrategy.
Yeah, he should have just bought MicroStrategy. Anyway, Trung, anything else on that before we wrap that, mate?
No, I think that's good, man.
I think it's worth us bringing that in. All right, just for people listening, we got a second episode for you coming next week to answer the rest of the AMA questions we got this week. So thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.